Welcome to Around the Peninsula. I'm Army Sergeant Jessica Cook. President Barack Obama was in Korea for the 2012 Nuclear Summit. Air Force Sergeant Lucas Morrow takes us to his arrival at Osan's airstrip.
President Barack Obama arrived at Osan Air Base, South Korea on Sunday morning, ahead of the two-day Nuclear Security Summit in Seoul. Korean government, along with U.S. government and military officials, including Ambassador Sung Kim, USFK Commander General James Thurman, and Colonel Patrick McKenzie, 51st Fighter Wing Commander, were on hand to receive the president and welcome him to the country. President Obama will use the rest of his time in Korea to discuss nuclear security issues at the summit, as well as hold one-on-one meetings with world leaders and give a speech at a local university. This is President Obama's third trip to Korea while in office. President Obama's time at Osan was brief, as he immediately made his way to a waiting helicopter to fly him north to the demilitarized zone for a tour and to meet with U.S. soldiers stationed there. Air Force Staff Sergeant Lucas Morrow, Osan Air Base, Korea.
Before attending the Nuclear Security Summit, President Obama paid a visit to the DMZ. Air Force Sergeant Jeff Howerton caught up with our Commander-in-Chief in the Joint Security Area.
The President of the United States, Barack Obama, visited Camp Boniface along the DMZ. One of the things he did while he was there was to talk with about 40 service members from the peninsula to offer his thoughts on their service.
Good to see you. We're grateful to you, we're proud of you, and I hope that all your family back home knows how proud your Commander-in-Chief is of you.
He also went to Observation Point Olet, where he looked out over North Korea. After his time at the DMZ was finished, the president left to attend a bilateral meeting with the South Korean president, followed by other heads of state for the Nuclear Security Summit. Air Force Sergeant Jeff Howerton, Camp Boniface, Korea.
While our Commander-in-Chief was in Korea, military bases took extra care to make sure his visit went smoothly. Army Sergeant Chris Ballantyne reports on how USAG Yongsan played a key role in the president's visit.
President Barack Obama stopped by USAG Yongsan en route to the Nuclear Security Summit held at the COEX complex in Seoul, South Korea. The Army post began preparations weeks in advance in order to execute the necessary security measures flawlessly.
I mean, you couldn't ask for a better group of professionals. These soldiers in and out every day. Early this morning, was up at 3 o'clock this morning preparing to get ready for our Commander-in-Chief, so that they could properly provide him security and give him proper escort to his destination.
The post welcomed the president in more ways than one, and for over 60 personnel working the event, it was a matter of patriotic duty.
It's one of those things that when you're in the military, you find pride in your job. And obviously serving the President of the United States is one of those moments where you can have pride in your job.
But for others, it was a family affair.
We waited for about 9 o'clock. And what we think about seeing the President, it was great. It was great to come out here and see him come by.
This was the third time President Obama visited USAG Yongsan during his presidency. Army Sergeant Chris Ballantyne, Yongsan, Korea.
When the Nuclear Security Summit came to a close, President Obama prepared his return to the United States. However, he had at least one group of people to meet with. Air Force Sergeant Lucas Morrow has more.
President Barack Obama took time to make a stop and visit airmen at Osan Air Base before leaving South Korea on Tuesday evening. President Obama wrapped up a 3-day visit to Korea, visiting the demilitarized zone, giving a speech to Korean university students, and participating in the Nuclear Security Summit in Seoul, which was his main reason for his visit. However, it was his last stop that gave him the chance to say hello to over 100 airmen stationed at Osan, and the president pleased the crowd by shaking hands and talking to as many of those present as he could before being seen off by U.S. Ambassador Sung Kim, 7th Air Force Commander Lieutenant General Jean-Marc Juhaus, and 51st Fighter Wing Commander Colonel Patrick McKenzie. This trip is the third visit to Korea during President Obama's time in office. Air Force Staff Sergeant Lucas Morrow, Osan Air Base, Korea.
The Nuclear Security Summit in Seoul was attended by over 50 world leaders and was held over 2 days in Seoul. In other news, Commander Naval Forces Korea honored those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for their country. Specialist Edwin Pierce takes us to the Chonan Memorial to remember 46 of those fallen service members.
It was 2 years ago that the South Korean naval vessel the Chonan was sunk by a torpedo. Last year, U.S. Naval Forces Korea and the ROK Navy honored the fallen 46 service members with the unveiling of a memorial at the U.S. Naval Forces Command Yongsan.
We need to remember the cause for which these 46 souls gave their last full measure of devotion. And that will give us also the resolve to continue what we're doing here to support General Thurman and the strong alliance and the operationally ready forces that we need to protect and defend the Republic of Korea.
Admiral McQuilkin also went on to say that our countries have a long-standing and unbreakable bond, and that the ceremony only reaffirms that. Reporting from Yongsan, Specialist Edwin Pierce.
The 8th United States Army also held a memorial to remember those who perished during the Chonan sinking. Specialist Sarah Herring takes us to the 8th Army headquarters where the ceremony was held.
On March 26, 2010, 46 Republic of Korea Navy sailors sank with their naval ship, the Chonan. To honor those sailors who gave the ultimate sacrifice to their country, 8th Army held a memorial remembering those who we lost that fateful day.
I think it was a very emotional event for both the ROK participants and the U.S. participants, and I think anytime as warriors you gather together and you remember your fallen comrades, it's always emotional and meaningful, and we think not only of the sailors who lost their lives but their families.
8th Army officials would like to remind you that it is important to remain vigilant against attacks, such as those like the Chonan. Specialist Sarah Herring, Seoul, Korea.
One of the distinguished guests at this ceremony was General Paek Sun-yup, who is not only honored as a Korean War hero, but is also Korea's first 5-star general. And finally tonight, soldiers from USAG Yongsan's headquarters company took a trip to Itaewon, but not for what you would think. Army Sergeant Chris Ballantyne reports.
While most soldiers at USAG Yongsan were conducting PT, a group of soldiers from HHC visited Itaewon for a little spring cleaning.
I believe if we take the time out of our day to come out and just promote not only cleanliness in an area that not only Americans but a lot of people in Seoul use on a daily basis, it promotes it in a sense that we're taking pride in the country that we're in as well.
The soldiers joined forces with Yongsan-gu city officials, members of the Itaewon Tourist Association, citizens of Itaewon, and other volunteers to strengthen the ROK-US alliance by being good neighbors.
Every unit, whether they go do orphanage visits or coal deliveries, and in our case today we do the Itaewon beautification, it's just showing our support for the USFK's initiative for the Goodwill, or as you were, the Good Neighbor program.
Despite the cold morning, all that participated felt warm with the sense of accomplishment.
I think it went really well this morning. Had a lot of camaraderie between the Korean Nationals volunteers and the U.S. soldiers.
Army Sergeant Chris Ballantyne, Itaewon, Korea.
Projects like the Itaewon Cleanup is one of the many community events that soldiers in HHC participate in. That was your Around the Peninsula for Thursday, April 5th. From all of us at AFN, enjoy your evening.